Hey, I'm going to talk to you today about two graphic novels by the same author, Blankets and Habibi by Thompson. Blankets, a very thick volume. So it's an autobiographical novel by the author, and he grew up in the very rural part of Wisconsin in America, and he was brought up in a fundamentalist Christian family. Now it might sound like an insignificant detail, but it's not, because it's going to really make him perceive life very differently. So it's also a story of love and an initiating journey through love. It's very lyrical and poetic and genuine, and that's probably what makes it very touching. Now it starts off during his very early childhood, from the moment that he has to share his bed with his little brother just because the house is so small and that the parents are struggling to make ends meet, until the moment that he becomes a full-fledged grown-up man and ready for the world. Now, why blankets? Well, because it's a recurrent motif all throughout the story. He and his brothers and his little brother used to fight all the time for those blankets because they were sleeping in this very narrow bed and it was quite uncomfortable. Now, there's some sense of humour, but above all it's very insightful, and it brings up interesting topics about love and faith and sexual guilt in general, which is why I mentioned the God and Christianity in general at the beginning of the book. Now I really highly recommend it. It's gorgeous, it's beautiful. Just make yourself comfortable, make yourself a cup of tea and read it. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. It's gorgeous. And now I'm going to talk about Habibi, which is also a very thick volume, although it doesn't show because I bought it, read it, and then lent it. So this is the best I could do for today. Now this is an entirely different genre. Some reviews are actually tempted to say it's a loaded genre, and what the author says is that it was a conscious mashup of the holy books like the Bible and the Quran, but also the trashy medium of comic books. It's a fairy tale, and the author Thompson insists that it should be considered like that because some medias and school have actually considered it as an academic book, which is not. His very first intent was just to write and draw a fairy tale. The setting is Oriental, and the landscape is rather Middle Eastern, although it's hard to say when and where it actually happened, because it's this blend of modern and tradition, and it just remains undetermined. You just don't know where or when it exactly happened. It's about two characters, Dodola and Zam, and they're both gonna go through a very tough journey of survival, and it's somehow an initiating adventure to good and evil, and they're both very lonesome and lonely characters, but luckily they will find each other and complement each other. And at one point she is going to embody the substitute mother of Zam. They're going to be separated, then reunited again. And Dodola is very clever. She's beautiful, but also very clever and quick-witted, and she has developed this very strong will to survive, and because she just wants to acquire her freedom, really. But she is also literate, and she was taught how to write and read. And that's very important in the context of the story, but I'm not going to spoil it, I'm just going to let you discover and find out for yourself. Now, what the author says is that he deliberately decided to sexualize the character of Dodola because he wanted the reader to experience her through the lustful and lascivious gaze of men, And in fact, this fairy tale explores many themes, such as, the recurrent one of sexual guilt, like I told you previously in Blankets. It's recurrent as a theme. And also faith and fantasy and love. And besides, there's there are like, you know, like stories from the Quran and the Bible that are very subtly interwoven throughout the tale. So it brings up many philosophical themes, and it's very insightful. And I think it's worth, you know, having a little chat about that with your friends, for instance, if you want to further those topics in the conversation. As for the characters now, well, like I said, they're going to go through much change, and that's probably what makes them very, you know, you just get attached to them. At least that was my personal experience. Now, as many other reviews say, they're tempted to say, like I told you, it was a loaded genre. But yeah, it's hard to define what it is. Now, finally, the drawing style, and I think I should have started with that in the first place. It's amazing. Now, it's stunningly beautiful, and from the first pages onwards, you're just completely blown away. It's unique, it's elegant, it's sensitive, and it's such a shame that I don't have the book with me today, but just Google it, and there's plenty for you to see, but it's unique, you know, it's Orientalist, it's refined, highly recommendable, just enjoy. I find that, you know, he does need an extra trademark because his drawing style just makes it all voila. That's all I have to say for today. Enjoy.